Well, hello there. I am using Tana to track my tea, and I just kind of wanted to show it off and show you how it is working for me. It is an unusual use of Tana. If you're not familiar with Tana, it's more of a personal knowledge management and note tracking tool, but I think it works really well for tea too. I will let you be the judge. But my problem is I have all this tea coming in and I want a way to not only inventory it, but also track it and understand what I'm drinking. So I have a lot of teas set up in my system already, and I want to show you how it works because the goal is to set things up and then have them work nicely. So I am here on the day page, which if you used Tana before, this is where a lot of things start off. I've just picked a random day, and on my day page, I have some daily habits that I like to check in with. I have work tasks that I would put here, and then I have a tea section. I'm going to go ahead and expand that tea section, and this is where I can put all sorts of teas that I am drinking. Now they're already in my system. I can start tagging the tea, and by tagging the tea, all I have to do is type an @ symbol, and what that's going to do is that's going to bring up different things. And the tea that I'm going to drink today, or pretend to drink today, is called Olympus. So we'll go Olympus. That's going to bring up a list of a bunch of different things, but what I'm looking for is that tea that is tagged with that hashtag tea. There's also a little icon letting you know it is a tea. Now you will see some other things below here. That is just because it was referenced in other places, but this lets me know this is what I want. So I can click this, and then there's that beautiful icon again right there, and I can leave it just like this. I can say, hey, today I just drank this particular tea, and that's fine. But personally for me, I find value when I not only say what tea I'm drinking, but why I made it, or also what I thought about it. So Olympus is actually one of my favorite green teas. It takes like a liquid grapefruit, which for some of you might sound appealing. Some of you it might not. But I'm just going to say, have a little note here. I'm going to say yummy grapefruit tea today. Nice and cold. I think this is a great tea that is hot and cold, by the way. So I just want to point out, now that I'm on my day page, if I were to go to my next day, so I'll just go ahead and go forward, notice how it does start off. It still has those headings of work and tea. So those are actually on all of my day pages by default. But if I go back to my previous tea, there's my tea, it's still there. And I could keep going. I can keep logging the teas that I'm drinking. And that is perfectly fine. But I want to show you, since this tea is in my system, if I click on it, what that's going to do is that's going to bring up this tea. And every tea in my system has a name, it has a type, it has a brand, it has whether I have tried it or not, and then ideally it has a URL. And there are some AI features that I can get to in another video, but I was playing around with the AI features to fill in some tea information. Not all my teas have this, but here's an example of how you could use the AI to grab that information if you didn't want to grab it yourself. But the real magic is in this reference section. So here we go. I have tagged this tea not only today, Monday, October 6th, but I've also tagged it October 1st, October 20th. So these are just different references. And then if I show 6 more, I will see some additional teas or times that I've mentioned Olympus. So not always drinking it, but sometimes I am using it other places too. Now, so this is great. This is where I can look and see how I'm using the tea. So that is one way that I am using my tea tracking. So let me go ahead and go back to my October 6th page that I was on. And I also wanted to point out, you might have noticed that there were some tasks over to the right. And these tasks sure sound a lot tea related, right? So I actually have a separate task set up in my system that I like to call a tea task. And what this does is, as I'm going through cataloging my teas and indexing them, I really want to stay in the flow. I don't want to go down rabbit holes too much. So I might make a task to come back and inventory a tea or correct a tea or add some more information. And so those are all in my tea tasks here. I do actually have multiple tasks. So if I go to my view options and I go to my filter, I just wanted to show you that right now I'm looking at just my tea tasks, but I also have regular tasks that are actual real tasks, and then I also have work tasks. And so sometimes I just want to see personal stuff, which is under task, and then sometimes I want to see work task. But right now I'm only showing you the tea task. You'll also see below that I have something called pinned links. So this is not something that comes standard. This is something that I built with the help of Ev, who is a Tana Superhero. This is a tip that I learned from her, but these are just some common links that I use. So I have tea no samples, I have packages that I'm waiting on, I have what tea was ordered, and then I also have something called a tea dashboard, which is where I just drop everything related to tea into that, and then I figure out where I want to sort it, where I want to inventory it. So with my tea no samples, I'm just going to show you, if I click on this link, what that's going to do is that's going to bring me to a list of my tea with no samples. The reason it says tea no samples is because I have two types of tea in my collection. I have full packages of tea, which are what you're seeing here, and then I have samples of tea. And samples of tea might be just 1 or 2 cups, whereas a full package of tea, it might be 10 cups, might be 20 cups of tea. So I want to differentiate those, but I still want to track them. And every tea here has a name, has a brand, and has a tea type. And I also wanted to show you that every brand not only gets assigned to a tea, but it also has its own tea log. And so if I take you over to my tea brand here, I wanted to show you that I also have a list of all my tea brands. And what I can also do is pull up my teas by the brand. So in this example, we're on Smith Tea Maker. Here's a search node that I've created. And if I expand it, I can see all of the teas for Smith Tea Maker. So it starts with just the teas. These are the teas I have in full size. And then these are the tea samples that I have. And notice how the tea samples are unique. First, they're in purple, and then they also have a nice little checkbox. So when I finish the tea sample, I can have it not display in any more lists, but it can still stay indexed for future reference. And then if this tea sample were to become a full tea, I could just change that tag and make it a full tea. Super easy, very easy for me. So that's one way that I'm using that tea. I also wanted to show you, if I go back to my tea dashboard, so we'll click on this tea here, every tea gets an icon. You already saw that it has a title, it has a brand, a tea type. Here I'm also seeing my URL. And then you're also going to see something that says number of references. And so this lets me know how many times I am talking about this tea. Now, I know this says 42. This does not mean that I drank this 42 times. I was actually experimenting with this particular tea, playing around with it. But if I look at something like this Mantra Mint Herbal Tea, I'll see it has 4 references. That's a little bit more accurate. I have been drinking that. But the benefit of these references is that I can also check this box letting me know that I tried it. So this pumpkin spice brulee oolong, I believe I've tried, so I can always check that box, or I can uncheck it if the sample is still available. Notice how it checks it in both places, which is really cool. Now I also want to show up at the top, you'll see everything that is tagged as tea. So this pumpkin spice brulee oolong is a tea sample. It also has a nice little checkbox by it. That's how I can distinguish. But if I just want to look at my tea no samples, I have that we saw earlier. And then if you'll notice, certain teas have, like for instance, this vanilla cream is both black and flavored. So if I have just pure black teas, I can have this list. This list shows me just the teas that are black, that are not flavored. And then here's a list of teas that are both black and flavored. So you can create as many lists and create as many nodes as you want. So that is essentially my tea dashboard here. I'm still working on it. It's still a work in progress. I do want to point out a couple other things. I did mention my tea dashboard here, which is sort of a drop everything sort of place where I organize things. We already talked about my tea samples. I also have a tea log tag where I just tag miscellaneous things that I want to process later. We saw the tea brand. I did not show you my tea package. So here's the part where you do not judge me, but you might understand why I wanted a system to track my teas. So if I click on tea package, what that's going to do is that is going to show me all of my tea packages. And these are packages that I have ordered. I try to have every tea live in some sort of package, be it just a catch-all package or an actual legitimate order. And every tea package has a name, has a brand, has an order date, ship date, possibly a receive date, and then a total. And I also try to put an invoice in the tea package as well if I have one. And I wanted to show you up at the top here, I do have some additional filters set up. So I have what is my tea ordered. I also have tea received. So this is just showing me when those packages came in. I also have something called tea in-store orders. So some teas are purchased in store. They won't have a shipped or received. And so I try to keep them in here. And then I have packages I am waiting on. So for example, here are some packages that I am waiting on or that don't have a shipped or received date. However, some of these packages I know I received. So for instance, this Ohio tea package, I think I got on Monday. So I'm just going to show you, if I click on that link and then I go okay, what that's going to do is that is going to make it a gray node because now it shouldn't be on this list. And then if I click clean up, there it goes away. So I'm no longer waiting on that package. That's a really cool feature. There's also teas with no receipt. And the way that it works is that if the tea has a certain criteria, it will show up here. But if it is a store order, it will not. So store orders don't always have receipts, so they don't show on this list. But here's teas that I just need to go back and I need to add the receipt, or I need to take them off the list. So that's really cool too. That is my tea package list. So yeah, like I said, this workspace works for me. It is a work in progress, but the benefit is that I can keep track of my teas, I can log them, and I can also be a little bit more conscious of what I'm ordering, what I'm spending, what I'm doing. So happy to make more videos explaining my filters, explaining my process, going to this more depth, but I just kind of wanted to show you from a simple level what Tana is capable of. So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to making more Tana videos and showing you some cool things that I'm doing with Tana. Thank you very much for watching.